I did my concept diagram on cardiovascular disease. The factors that influence cardiovascular disease are biological, cultural, environmental, and socioeconomic. Biological factors. Genetic factors play a role in nearly all types of cardiovascular disease. Cardiac disorders such as congenital heart disease, arrhythmias, and high blood cholesterol can be inherited and lead to cardiovascular disease. Genetic variations can also affect the chance of developing cardiovascular disease. A single gene can be mutated in a way that can only affect one protein, but that one protein can be the reason why they face cardiovascular disease. For example, if that one protein is mutated in a way that has trouble processing lipids and cholesterol, it can increase the risk. However, the expressivity depends on multiple factors, and cardiovascular disease develops as a consequence between conditions coded in genotype and exposure to other variables. Cultural factors. Social norms that can lead to cardiovascular disease vary between cultures. One of the risk factors for cardiovascular disease is smoking. In some cultures, smoking is looked down upon, while in some cultures it is socially accepted. For example, in Turkey, smoking is common throughout the whole country, so you will often see teachers and young adults smoking. While in the United States, there is a push against it and laws prohibiting smoking in areas such as restaurants or shopping malls. Dietary patterns that include high consumption of vegetables, fish, and fiber is associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. In cultures where emphasis is put on eating home-cooked meals as a family, there is a lower rate of cardiovascular disease than in cultures where there is not. And these eating habits are passed down through generations, affecting the health of those to come. Another variable is what they believe to be the cause of cardiovascular disease. If they believe it is mostly hereditary, they are less likely to quit bad habits such as smoking than if they believe it is caused by their lifestyle. That belief can also influence their response to medication and if they will adhere to their medication regime. Environmental factors. Where a person lives can impact cardiovascular disease risk and outcomes. If a person who has a family history of cardiovascular disease lives in an area where healthy food is available, healthcare is accessible, and the air is clean, they will decrease their chance of developing a cardiovascular disease. Food policies, such as taxing junk food, can differ between countries and has been associated with lower cardiovascular disease in those populations. Another variable in cardiovascular disease is the quality and availability of drinking water. How much water a person drinks and the amount of minerals, good such as calcium and bad such as lead, can impact the odds of developing cardiovascular disease. Socioeconomic factors. Socially disadvantaged groups have a higher rate of cardiovascular disease and have a lower life expectancy due to it. The main reason behind this is the difference in treatment and management. Those who are at a socioeconomic advantage have access to better care and usually have more knowledge of cardiovascular disease due to their education. Those who are disadvantaged cannot afford the cost of treatment, do not have the availability to seek treatment, and have a harder time keeping up with the treatment. For example, someone who is at a disadvantage may not be able to afford medication, so they need to take and may skip doses or take less than what they're prescribed. Another example is being able to take time off from work and not having to face repercussions financially. There's also the tie with environment. In areas of low socioeconomic status, there are fewer opportunities for physical activities, such as parks, gyms, and a general safe environment, and less healthy food available. So there is often less supermarkets and more convenience stores, and usually barely any farmers markets. Environment can also impact the genotype and how it does in that environment. An environment influences culture due to what is available in that area and it can influence habits due to temperature and other conditions. For example, if a person lives in an area where it snows most of the time of the year, they will usually have less physical activity than if someone lives in an area that is usually sunny. And socioeconomic factors determine the environment they live in.